Assalamu alaikum. My name's Janet Gascoigne. Yes, I'm originally from England. I'm still English. I'm 63 years old, and I've lived in Istanbul now for 9 years. I was born in England and lived there until I was 21. And when I was 21, I moved to Germany, to Berlin, and I lived in Berlin for 32 years. Yeah. And my job, I'm an English teacher. Yeah. I also teach German because I learnt German to a high level in Berlin, so now I can also teach German. My education, I have a very basic education, and I took a CELTA certificate for teaching. I did a course as a travel agent in Germany, also as in office management. I've worked in office management, I've worked in the hotel trade, and now teaching for the last 16 years. Well, when I was in Berlin, I was teaching children at an extracurriculum school, giving them homework help. And the school was, they were quite religious Muslims, and I didn't know anything about Islam, so I started to find out more. And because I was a new teacher at the time, I needed some practice and to know how to teach Muslims and Turkish people, because if you know your students, you can be a better teacher. You know, so you need to understand your students in order to help them to learn the language, to know why they make the mistakes they do, how they think, how they feel. So I got to know Islam, and then I met somebody on the internet who was looking for English lessons, and I was looking for English teaching practice, and he happened to know a lot about Islam, so I took the opportunity to ask him a lot of questions about Islam. So he was getting practice in English and I was getting information about Islam. 10 days after meeting him, I became Muslim. You know? So I was so convinced after reading a certain book that this is actually my religion, and it's not what I've been reading so far in the press. It was when I started working at the Turkish school that I wanted to learn more about Islam, because I was teaching Muslims, so I needed to find out more about Islam. Yeah, what are the differences and similarities between our two religions? With one of my students, who at the time was 15 years old, we talked a lot about her religion and my religions, and we compared them. You know? So at first I was looking for similarities between the two religions, yeah? And then I found the similarities and the differences, and it was maybe the differences that helped me to revert to Islam. I can't really say there's any one particular aspect. The one thing that I really truly believe in, and that is the most important part for me, is that there is only one God, one Allah. This for me is the most important thing, because in Christianity they have what they call the Trinity. That is something I still can't get my head around. You know, for me 1 + 1 + 1 is still 3, but in Islam 1 is 1 and one Allah. It's a very clear religion, and so the main part for me is the one God, one true God, one Allah. I looked a lot on the internet. I talked to people. I talked to Turkish Muslims in Berlin. I went to the mosques in Berlin. We did sohbet. I got lots of information from the people I was working with, and also from my students. Yeah? They talked a lot about Islam too. I got a help from mostly from Turkish people, because I spent a lot of time with Turkish people in Berlin, and we talked a lot about Islam, so they helped me a lot. They helped me with the prayers. My boss at the school, he said, if you're not busy on the 24th of December 2005, my wife will show you how to pray. Come to our house for breakfast, and she will show you what to do in Islam. So I went to their house on the 24th of December 2005, and she showed me the movements, the prayers, how to pray. She gave me a lot of help, and also we read the Quran together. So they were able to answer most of my questions. In my life, my life was running pretty smoothly before I became Muslim, but I still didn't seem satisfied with my life. There was something missing, because in England I was Christian and I went to church and I believed in God. But when I got to Berlin, my religion, which was at the time Church of England, wasn't represented. So I sort of lost contact with my own religion and started looking for something else. And I was working at a bookshop sometime before I became Muslim, and I looked at all kinds of things like psychology and things like tarot cards and all the esoteric kind of things, which seemed interesting for a short time, but after I'd read a few pages of each book, I put the book back on the shelf and there was nothing more there for me. It was just a passing phase. But when I turned to Islam, I could see this is something for life. This is something you can learn every day. This is something that will help me in my life forever. You know, it's not just a passing phase where you pick up the Quran, read it, and put it back on the shelf. It's something you pick up almost every day, and you can still learn something from it. So, yeah. My views on Islam before conversion, oh dear. Yeah. Pretty much like most Western European people. Oh, Islam, Muslims, terrorists, crazy people, yeah. Be careful. Everything that you get in the press, the negative reports, and I didn't really know much about Islam, and I didn't really have the interest to find out more about it until I started working with Turkish people at the Turkish school, and I had Turkish Muslim students. So I started to get a deeper interest, and by talking to real Muslims and finding out that Islam is not what the Western world think it is, I found out I was quite surprised. It's not at all what they say it is. It's completely different. And when I read the book, I thought, this is my belief, this is my religion. I was just never told that I'm a Muslim. So after that, 10 days later, I became Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, unfortunately, my family were very negative about it at first. My mum, she was very negative, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing that for?" And because I was born near to Christmas, and my mother associated me with Christmas and Christianity, and she was quite upset about it. But I said, "Well, we don't celebrate Christmas together, and Christmas is only giving presents and material things." I said, "But it has no real meaning anymore. It's just commercialized." So eventually she got round to, after I told her what Islam's all about, she started to accept it more. But my brother is very negative towards Islam, and we still don't see eye to eye on it, but we try to avoid the topic when we talk on the phone. Yeah. The advice I give to non-Muslims, that's a difficult question, but I think the best advice is to learn how to be a Muslim from real practicing Muslims and from the Quran, not from some of the Muslims that claim to be Muslims that are not really Muslims, yeah? And not to believe everything that they hear about Islam on television or in the press, because the Western world know nothing about the real Islam. They just try to put it in a negative light, and that's not what it is at all. Islam is something completely different, and if Islam were to be followed correctly, the way it's intended to be, this world would be a perfect place. No crime, no drugs, no alcohol. Yeah? Okay, maybe for Western world they can't live without their alcohol, but we live clean, you know. We don't get drunk, we don't make ourselves ill through using alcohol or drugs. Yeah? So it's a clean way of life, it's a moral way of life. But I would definitely recommend people to turn to Islam and to change some of their Western ways. Yeah. First, look at what Islam's all about. My advice for Muslims? Yes, Muslims also need advice, and that is to live your life as Allah intended it for you, in coordination with the Quran, yeah, and the Hadith. Follow our example, our role model Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, follow in his footsteps as best you can, yeah, and try and avoid copying the bad habits of the Western world. How did Islam help me? It helped me in a way that now, after reverting to Islam and finding out what Islam's all about, now we know where we've come from, where we are and where we are going. I have now got a set path in my life. Before I didn't have that. I just drifted from day to day, from thing to thing, from job to job. But now Islam has helped me to see what my purpose in life is and to see where I'm going.